大家好，欢迎来到 Mandarin Q&A 的时间。大家今天过得怎么样呢？ Today's episode was inspired by a comment from one of you. The comment was about my Daily Mandarin episode, Huei. The viewer said, whoever decided that the A should be romanized with an I made a terrible mistake. When I read this comment, I couldn't help burst out laughing because I think this is something language learners experience no matter what language you are learning currently. Sometimes the difficult part is not the sound itself, it's learning how to connect the spelling with the sound. So let's talk about it. This actually reminded me of my own experience. When I was younger, I remember seeing Mandarin words written differently. For example, the word please, 请. I remember seeing it written as CHING, but today we write QING. And another example, money, 钱. I remember seeing it as CHIAN, but today we write QIAN. And I can't really remember exactly when or why it happened. It just feels like one day the spelling system suddenly changed. And at the time I thought, that is weird. But after seeing the new spelling more and more, I just got used to it. I guess my brain just got used to it unconsciously. And I think that happens when we learn any language. At the beginning, we focus on the symbols, but after enough exposure, our brain starts connecting directly to the sound. So let's come back to today's question. The word is Huei. Pinyin shows Hui. For many learners, this looks confusing, and I actually get it. Even for a native Mandarin speaker like me, when I first think about it, it kind of doesn't make sense. Because if we look at the spelling, Hui, we might naturally wonder, why doesn't it sound like Huei? But Mandarin learners actually have another pronunciation system too. Before Pinyin became common, many Mandarin speakers learned pronunciation through 注音, which is b, p, m, f. For example, Huei in 注音 is h, u, e, Huei. And this is where I think the confusion comes from. When we see the alphabet I by itself, it represents the E sound. But when it appears in a combination like UI, I is pronounced as EI, A. So it is not Ui. The combination represents a sound closer to UEI, Wei. So HUI is closer to Huei. The E sound is not written in Pinyin, but you can still hear it. You can see the same thing in the word water, 水. With Pinyin, it spells as SHUI. So technically, I will pronounce it as shuǐ. But because I see UI as UEI, so I know it pronounced as 水, not 虚. And another example, the word correct, 对, Pinyin spells as DUI. So normally, I pronounce it as Dewey, but because I look at UI as UEI, so I know this word should pronounce as 对. So when you see the combination of UI, think of it as Wei. This also reminds me of another letter, Q. When English speakers see Q, they naturally have their own expectation of how it sounds. To me, I pronounce the letter Q as Q. But when it shows up in Pinyin, I actually see it and feels it is actually closer to the CH sound, ch, that many English speakers know. For example, the word please, 请, Pinyin spells it as Qing. Now that's just for the fun purpose of it. Let's replace Q with CH. Then you will spell it as CHING, so you pronounce it as 请. Another example, the word money. In Pinyin, it spells as QIAN. So again, let's temporarily replace Q with CH. Then you will spell it as CHIAN, so you pronounce it as 钱. Now when I see Q, I don't stop and think, how would I pronounce the English letter? It's all about how you connect the dots, because my brain already connects it with the Mandarin pronunciation. When we first learn a new language, we naturally try to use the rules we already know. And honestly, I think this is completely normal. Our instinct is to understand something new by comparing it with something familiar. We try to rationalize it. We try to use the system we already know as a guide. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And when it doesn't work, how do we connect the dots and make it sound more natural? I think that is the real question when learning any language. But don't you just love those moments when a simple word suddenly makes you stop and think, wait a minute, why does it work this way? Why does it sound this way? And then when you finally unlock that little nut in your head, everything suddenly becomes clearer. I actually think this is what makes learning language or any new skill so much fun. So today's episode started with the word Huei, but I think the bigger question is, how do we learn to see a new language? Sometimes the challenge is not the language itself. Sometimes we're simply learning a new system. And I hope this helps a little bit for you to understand why sometimes Mandarin spellings may look different from what you expect. And thank you again to the viewer who inspired today's discussion. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe so we can keep exploring Mandarin together, one question at a time. 谢谢大家，下次见喽。